Yes, yes.
and rest of it is the second.
Yeah,
So
like
that way we had a special feature of having a very, very close liaison with our alumnus. That's an absolute advantage with AMU. And
how
so
many
that's
students you have now? How many students?
roughly 30,000.
Yeah, just about IIM 30,000. We have
Yeah.
alumni about 100,000 alumni for 36
We
years.
alumni, though we have, I mean, perhaps number unknown. It's very large. Naturally, 150 years old university. So
Yeah.
we have, and moreover, actually, if you analyze the whole of the Muslim population, you will find that Aligarh's contribution is very significant, very high, almost across the continents. Because here we used to have lots of heterogeneity in terms of students from across the world.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, Malaysian sending children to India so to study medicine at Madras. Now I call Chennai. No, now Chennai.
it, so Hemi, can I request you to ask other panelists to join? I have
Oh yeah,
reshared
yeah,
the ID.
yeah, yeah. I
Can you
I
please talk to them?
I got it from the email that you sent. The email that you sent.
Okay.
The reminder email. I click from there. So automatically it links to my laptop. Let me find the link.
Nayyar,
Yes, sir.
can you please send the link once again to the panelist?
Okay, sir. Okay.
Please do it fast. Hello, Nayyar?
Yes, sir.
I'm talking about the panelist, not
Yes, sir.
YouTube link.
Yes, yes. Panelist I am sending. That is different.
Please.
Okay.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I can also send you on WhatsApp the panelist link if you want. Sir, do you want me to send that link on your WhatsApp also?
Do it, please.
Okay, okay.
And yeah, please check out, keep track of the other person
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
in the name.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Professor Farida is here. That's great.
Sir, I am promoting to panelists.
Hello.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Prof. Farida.
Yes,
Assalamu alaikum, Farida madam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. All right. Nice to see you here.
Same here.
Right. Is it loud and clear?
Oh,
Yes.
sure.
Okay, good. Then I don't have to
Absolutely.
use my speaker. Yeah. Very good.
So we will just wait another minute or two for Professor Khalid. I hope that he joins. I have resent the link for him.
Yeah.
Sir, I have taken on board Professor Franco.
Okay, with your kind permission, Madam Farida and Sohami, let me introduce another guest, invitee guest, Mr. Franco Gondolfi. And he is a professor, and he actually had been to Malaysia
Oh,
quite some time, and therefore he
Oh,
wanted
great.
to be with you people. So I thought, how can I object to such
No problem.
a good gesture and meeting old friends? If I'm a facilitator, it's a welcome. It's a fantastic idea. So, funny. So, hello, Mr. Franco, are you there?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Oh, yes.
Just in case
Good
it's
morning,
better.
sir.
If there's noise, please inform me, okay?
Very good. Nice to meet you all.
Same here, and welcome,
Hello.
Franco.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be acquainted with you and to participate in this forum.
Thanks to you as well. We have another very learned faculties from Malaysia. We have Professor Dr. Farida in the first place, who had been a director and
Can
had
someone say something?
a person of very senior position. Then we also have Professor Sohami, who is again from Malaysia. And I would request you to please introduce yourself, Franco. That would help the participants to understand.
Can you hear me?
Sure. Can you all hear me, or would you like me to wait a moment or so?
Let
Yeah,
us.
I can hear you.
We are going to have one more guest, so just hold on, and so that would be great. And I hope that.
Okay, is there any noise in this microphone?
No,
Yeah,
it is
it's
perfectly all
clear.
right.
Okay,
It's
good.
clear.
Because yesterday
Perfectly
I
all right.
was having a class and they have a problem with the microphone.
Right now, I think the voice is crystal clear.
Good.
To me.
Hi, Franco.
Hello, Professor. How are you?
Great.
Hi, Franco.
Hello, Doctor. I'm very pleased to hear that your MCO is being relaxed as we speak.
Yeah.
As of
Still,
today.
yeah, from today. But we're
Yes.
still at home.
But it's a good step in the right direction. I'm very pleased to see that.
Where are you now, Franco?
I am currently calling in from Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam.
What are you doing there?
I'm advising a group of, it's a conglomerate of businesses and schools that this particular organization holds, and I'm
Right.
advising the executive board on strategic matters, which in this day and age is very difficult to do, right? Because strategies change every day.
Yeah, dynamic. Strategy is very dynamic.
Very dynamic. So we're doing a business continuity plan right now,
Yeah.
and so very interesting times.
That's very true. There are supposed to be, I mean, very, very wide changes, very, I mean, absolute change.
Yes.
Because
This is a change management topic.
So nothing that I've done in my life prior to this has prepared me for this. So uncharted waters for all of us.
that's very true.
Yeah, this is very new, very unprecedented.
Very challenging.
Yes.
Yeah, we never faced this. Different from SARS, from Moscow, from 1918 Spanish flu.
Right from individual to the aggregate humanity, whether it is nation, whether it is any continent, or I mean, nobody is left untouched.
Correct.
One thing that is important is humanity. So we have to live with humanity.
That's very true. And it is likely to have a very, very cascading effect. That's I mean, it's not something that will just happen. I mean, it's something happening, and it will, I mean, the effects will keep on taking place, filtering for last another at least 2-3 years, I believe. Because, and I think it is going to somewhat lead some human evolution type of thing. Different scenario is going to come up.
Yeah, correct, Prof. The new normal. The new normal. We cannot have a congregation. We cannot shake hands. We cannot have a party anymore.
I think
At
the
least
role of
for 2 years.
technology is likely to increase very significantly in life.
Yeah.
And especially information technology is going to be more vital than regular. I mean, it is indeed, but Internet of Things is going to have momentum.
Now we start to appreciate Industrial Revolution 4.0, big data, artificial intelligence, information networking. Start to appreciate now.
That's true.
And then also the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now we start to appreciate.
So, Amy, can I request you to please contact Mr. Khalil so that we start? Can we?
Where is Professor Khalid?
I have no idea.
Just now he was the one that.
You will be presenting too, right, Franco? You joined us in the panelists, Franco?
If you would, I have not prepared for this panel, but if you would like me to comment on anything you want, happy to do that.
Yeah, we are very happy to hear from you. You are in the industry, right? Business advisory.
I probably, just to give you a brief background before we start off, I probably represent more of a Western perspective because most of my work is in the US. I work for Georgetown University as a faculty, and but I spent 2 years in Malaysia, and I'm now in Vietnam, as I said. But most of my research is in North America.
Okay, that's great. Walaikum assalam, Khalid Saab.
My apology. Sorry. Can please?
No, nothing to be apologetic. So there are a few faces that I feel I'm duty bound to introduce first. Let me introduce the Honorable Professor Nawab Ali Khan, the Chairman of the Department of Commerce. He is with us now. And Mr. Franco Gandolf is from US basically. He had been to Malaysia and he wanted to be with the panel. So I said, most welcome. We are academicians, so any new wisdom is a welcome. So we welcome Franco, and I also welcome all the participants, the panelists. And since we are already late, shall we start the discussion?
Yes, please.
May
Yes.
may I formally request the Honorable Chairman of the Department of Commerce to please welcome the participants briefly so that we can start the program very fast. Please. Thank you, sir. Nawab Sahab, your microphone is off. Please switch on your microphone. Thank you.
Respected guests, I welcome you all to this event today. This is one of the series that we are organizing in the Department of Commerce. Without wasting a single moment, I will request you to start your deliberations and we will be joining you. I welcome to all the guests also, attendees. Khalif bhai, you are there. I think you can initiate the process today.
Okay.
Senior of all. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. Professor Dr. Imran Salim, Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, and Professor Khan, Professor Farida Hassan, Professor Suhaimi, and my friend Franco. I think this is a great opportunity to meet all of you. And this small world, the digital divided the world into different have and have not, but today looks like it is inevitable. Everybody has to be here. I think all of you perhaps familiar with me, except Mr. Franco. I'm Professor Khalik, formerly from Malaysia, and I was the Dean Faculty of Economics and Management Science Institute, etc., etc., and retiring. Now I am here in the Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, for a short while, and I don't know how long. We are all locked down due to the blessings of the COVID, so we have to unlock ourselves through the digital devices. Dr. Suhaimi is my student and also colleague. He is associate professor from the Faculty of Economics and Management Sciences in IIUM. He is PhD from Australia. Professor Dr. Farida Hassan, the rose among the thorns today. Thorns said the Professor Farida, welcome. She is my colleague, being the partner in the Chartered Institute of Marketing. She is the former dean in the Institute of University Technology. She is a graduate from United Kingdom. She has a lot of experience, almost same like. And then we have here, may I request Gandoli to introduce yourself because you are new to me.
Okay, let me just, sorry, I had to unmute quickly. So it's a distinct pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me. And it's an honor, and I feel humbled to be among such esteemed colleagues as yourselves. So it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Franco Gandolfi, born and raised in Switzerland, but I spend a lot of my time in different parts of the world, including Australia, United States, the UAE, Fiji, and Malaysia also, most recently. And currently I'm based in Vietnam, but I'm doing most of my work for Georgetown University on the East Coast of the US, specializing in change management and leadership development.
Thank you. You're welcome. So back to the organizer, Professor Imran Salim Saab and Professor Nawab Ali Khan as a host. Otherwise, we can go quickly because the time is always very short.
Please go ahead, sir. Let us start the discussion because, I mean, see, the whole, may I take a liberty to introduce the program itself for a minute?
Okay, actually, this is a, thank you very much, Prof. Imran Salim. This is a great opportunity, even though in Saudi it's quite early now compared to Vietnam and Malaysia. But nevertheless, in the month of Ramadan, we always wake up. Actually, the topic for today discussion is a national response to COVID-19. And Malaysia, of course, is one of the emerging, rather emerge, I would say, last time, being the 17th in the list on the top of the trading nations. But as we know, the world economies are suffering, and everybody is caught into the off guard. We don't know what and where. So today we would be more talking about the national response related to this COVID-19, and Malaysia would be case study. So Dr. Swami, would you mind to take my plan is that we would just go for 5 minutes each, and then second round, and then there may be some question and answer session. So Dr. Swami, would you like to take 5 minutes to please share your experience?
Okay, thank you, Professor Khalid, Professor Imran, Professor Khan, and other panelists, Professor Farida, Franco, and all. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share our perspective, being a young academic, a student of Professor Khalid and also later colleague. And based on my academic teaching of business ethics and strategic management, so we can say the Malaysian response to COVID-19 early on before March, from November, December, because Malaysia is a hub, okay, for trading, for tourism, and so forth. So Malaysia is very open for people to come and transit and so forth. And we don't see, okay, our government didn't see this as something emergency until March. We see the cases are increasing, and the government has to take strategic actions to address this emergency. There are 4 main strategic actions that they are taken by Malaysian government. So we can say the 4 action can be divided into 2 action for the government and the 2 action for the public. The 2 action for the government is first to close the borders. That's the more important thing, to close the border. No one can come into Malaysia anymore, anywhere, by air, by land, or by sea, close. And number 2, the government imposed the internal lockdown. So we call here movement control order. Okay, no one can go out except those in the essential services. So those are the 4 actions taken by the government. And another 2 actions is for the public to respond. So number 1 is the social distancing. They have to distance at least 1 meter in any situation if they go out. Okay, but the rest must stay at home. And number 2, they have to keep, okay, when they go out, they have to keep the hygiene. Okay, they have to wash hand with soap and or hand sanitizer. So since those who outside, okay, for work, etc., they are exposed. They are very vulnerable to the virus, so they are very careful. But those at home also need to be careful when they go out to purchase their grocery or they receive deliveries. So they also have to practice the same, okay, the same hygiene. So it became something very, very weird at the beginning, but alhamdulillah, the government is not leaving the public, quiet. The 2 things that I can see, communication and coordination. The government keep telling people, stay at home, even from the king, okay, our supreme king, keep addressing the royal address to every day that you have to stay at home. And then the prime minister speech also to stay at home, and everybody, and even we have campaign hashtag stay at home. So this becoming the awareness becoming very high, and suddenly it became part of their life. Some people make joke of the this action, and of course people cannot believe that they finally all this while they never stay at home. At least like myself also, I spend only 2-3 hours at home, even though my house and the university is just 3 kilometers, but I spend most of the time in the university.
Isn't it good for you, Dr. Suhaimi? Isn't it good for you to be in prison like this and enjoy time with the family, because you never have been caught being inside within the 4 walls of the house?
Yeah.
Isn't it opportunity?
Yeah, the opportunity that, you know, the socialization house.
Okay, can we go actually? Thank you very much, Saimi.
Yeah,
Maybe
Prof.
is opportunity for Prof. Farida Hassan being an academician and really dealing with the institutions of higher learning. What have been the impact to the Malaysian scenario in terms of, because Malaysia is one of the attractions for educational pursuit by different parts of the world. Is there any impact, perhaps good or bad or whatever, in terms of the COVID-19 on Malaysian institutions? Prof.
Thank
Farida?
you. Yeah, thank you, Prof. Khalid. But before that, I'd like to thank the organizer for having me here. And let's just save the time. Maybe I thank them again later. But in response to your pointers, I would say definitely this educational sector, especially universities, are highly affected by this COVID-19. Because like what Prof. Suhaimi mentioned just now, it's really an unprecedented economy, really, really unexpected. So, you know, this kind of thing, although it has happened before, like the Spanish flu or the plague, that was, you know, a century ago. But what I could see is that this will not stop or will not recover within weeks or months. It may take, seriously speaking, maybe a year or more than a year, because to make it, you know, back to normal, is actually very risky at the moment for people to go out, even though there are some assurance on the movement control order. And but I think people are not willing, the public are not willing to take the risk. Now, coming back to the education sector, interestingly, public and private university reacts differently. For your information, Prof. Khalid, since you're out of the country, ever since COVID, the private sector had a big blow. It's a big hit because they are doomed for, I would say, suicide, you know, because the condition is that there's no classes, no fees, no incoming students, no registration of international students. So where would the revenue come in to support the private university? Whereas the public university, they are on a better platform because they have all the support system structure, the governance there to be able to continue the way they do things. But okay, what I wanted to highlight over here is that with this sudden stop of the education system due to COVID, there should be a change that I would like to suggest over here from the traditional mode of teaching, research and training that forces to look at things differently now. And time is money, because you know, the longer you wait, there will be no revenue or no, in fact, graduation of students. So that's a dilemma for both parties, yeah, the stakeholders and the providers. So programs should also be looked into, because currently or in the past prior to COVID, we are focusing on full-time students graduating for the full-time employment. But what we should be looking now would be to seriously think about gig economy, having gig programs in the universities to offer programs that are more pressing, more informal, and yet very rewarding. Because I think the full-time employment will just be over. There are many people who's going to stop working, they'll be out of jobs. So they have to think on something creative, what's next. So the universities must prepare, must prepare towards that.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Farida, for your inputs, be it an academics. I think Mr. Franco, the Vietnam is a stone throw away from Malaysia, is not that far. We are sharing the same atmosphere, you are part of, but emerging recently, the Vietnam economy as one of the tigers in the Southeast Asian region, and the very fast catching the GDP of the Vietnam, and looks like going very fast. So perhaps you would be able to share with the audience here, maybe your experience for 5 minutes, perhaps.
Absolutely, and thank you for mentioning that. And I do indeed have been watching this very closely, and I've been also comparing the various countries, not only in Southeast Asia, but on a global basis. What do the Europeans do? What do the North Americans do? And what have the Southeast Asian countries done? Interestingly, I mean, assuming that the virus started in China, we started hearing about a lot of these aspects regarding the virus in the second part of January. So what actually happened in Vietnam was the news inflow about the virus coincided with Chinese New Year, which is also called the Lunar New Year here, or the Tet holiday in Vietnam. So at the beginning of February, when people were supposed to resume work and the kids returned to school, that never occurred. And it still has not occurred since until today. So Vietnam very aggressively and also very quickly adapted to this new environment. The news coming from China, and Vietnam very resolutely started certain aspects, including physical distancing, shutting down non-essential businesses, forbidding large gatherings, and also closing down schools. Not so much universities. Universities were still free to decide themselves whether they wanted to shut down, but kindergarten and K-12 basically shut down immediately. It was also interesting to watch how certain political developments, and I'm talking globally now, how certain political developments led the president or led a cause and effect to certain actions. So in the US, for instance, Donald Trump had just returned from a trip to India, and it was only after he returned that he started taking action. And something similar I observed in Malaysia, where Malaysia had a lot of time to consider this virus and the impact on the government and the people and the economy. But as all of you know, even better than I do, Malaysia was in a state of flux in terms of transition of power from the old government to the new government. And perhaps a lot of the attention was kind of diverted from dealing with the virus to dealing with the transition of power and establishing a new government in Malaysia.
Okay, Mr. Franco, so sorry for interruption, but bear in mind one thing, that Malaysian economy always is known to look east. So what affects the Malaysian economy is basically what happens in Japan, what happens in Korea, what happens in China. Of course, Malaysia traditionally have been the partner with the trading nations like United States, European Union, etc., etc. But ASEAN being one of the emerging region for the trade and development. So perhaps your point bringing back to US, and then that perhaps, I don't know, but maybe that would not have much effects. And I think Malaysia was caught by surprise, no doubt. So was the United States, even in worse situation, maybe because of the population, aging population, etc., etc. So maybe one more minute you can respond to that before I go about for second round, please.
Sure, thank you. And I consider, going back to Vietnam now, I consider Vietnam alongside Singapore and alongside South Korea as an early mover. They quickly adapted to a new environment and started putting in certain measures, including, as I said, certain distancing, certain lockdowns on a more local level, based on what they had heard out of China. I think Malaysia, now bringing into your local context, Malaysia looked more at the numbers, and the numbers of infected people and deaths and so forth looked very promising in the early stages in Singapore. They looked very promising in Vietnam as well. So Malaysia really only put in this MCO once the numbers, and perhaps it was a second wave. The first wave, Malaysia weathered well, and perhaps in a more second wave, then Malaysia reacted. And once Malaysia reacted, as all of you know very well, they reacted very aggressively. And
I agree with you, because we have to see from today that Malaysia is losing, going to relax, because the problem is if you don't die of the COVID, you will die of the what call in Malay laporan. You will be having with any penny left, for buying your food and necessities. So there is a
Yes.
big challenge for the government to look into it. Basically, okay, by the way, I look it more from positive side of it, the whole decision, not only Malaysia, even for the whole world, I would say. If you look the impact of this COVID on the environmental issues, oh my God, I found that is blessing in disguise. The 25 kilometers up there, the ozone layer, if you look at it, what is happening to that? The North Pole actually was melting because of the ozone layer due to the energy sector was, I mean, really big issue. And they have been talking about this protocol and here and there. And the big brothers, they're the one who pollute the most. They're the one who make early out of it. So the ozone layer has a breathing period for it. The 3 kilometer from 25 to 28 kilometer up there in the sky is free to have the good breathing period for it, because if you look at it, all the trains, all the buses, all the trucks, all the vehicles, and even aeroplane, which is very closer to the ozone layer, it has been emitting the emissions and thinning the, and I was not surprised one day the sun rays will burn the whole world. And this has happened because you are forced to be at home, and now you are not polluting the environment. This is good for the rest of the mankind as well as other creatures. And then you cannot stop the world at one go. You can lock down one country, the other country will pollute. You can lock down the China, but US will pollute. You will lock down the US, Europe will pollute. So in that case, I guess this is an opportunity for all of us. And maybe Prof. Imran Salim want to have a couple of minutes before we go for second round. Yes, Prof. We can't hear you, Prof. Prof. Imran Salim, we see your microphone
Okay,
seems.
okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, what I was contemplating, that the response of all the nations are almost identical, changing in the with the passage of time only of implementation. Then second thing is, you rightly said that environment is a major gain of this. I mean, blessing in disguise. It's a perfectly all right. But what I really am concerned about, that post-COVID, once it is there, see, the nations across the world have actually closed down their borders. And now it is almost a recessionary situation across the world. I don't think that world has ever before experienced halting of industries. Absolutely. There is an absolute halt of tourism. There is an absolute halt of aviation industry. So many industries are just blocked, zero. And when they start reviving, what would be the national response? And what is the likelihood? And especially the island countries like Malaysia, and what about the food sufficiency and food supply? These are the two issues which I would request the panelists that if they can address and deliberate on this, please.
Thank you very much. I think Prof. Imran Salim, you have brought out, that was my second round.
Sir.
This is basically, thank you very much. Actually, the idea is that when this kind of thing happens, there is a new emerging world.
That's
and
right.
one of the direction which I could see, and panelists, Dr. Sohemi, Prof. Farida, Mr. Franco, you can deliberate on that. There would be certainly a death warrant for certain industries. For example, manufacturing, tourism, banking, even for that matter. They all would be actually in a big trouble and big fix. They would not be able to contribute to the GDP of the nation. Like Malaysia, tourism was one of them. In fact, this is going to be a big issue. But at the same time, this is a blessing in disguise, because there would be someone's loss is someone's gain. The industry which will be emerging again would be the agriculture industry. People are forced to go back from big cities to home and cultivate, till their lands. So agriculture industry would be coming up forward, and it's very good for food security. Secondly, there would be industry coming forward is the health and medical industry, because everybody is concerned for health. So medical industry would be getting a lot of allocation national level. that will be a IT. Naturally, the world has been actually controlled now. The future would be AI, artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence industry is going to emerge. And for your sake, let me share with you very frankly, you may disagree with me, for a artificial intelligence industry, which is controlling the all manufacturing, is coming forward very strongly. And bear in mind that for artificial intelligence industry, you need the rare earth. And 95% of the rare earth as a raw material coming from China alone. So China is going to dictate the terms. So be mindful of these future implications. Maybe Dr. Sohaimi, another couple of minutes for you.
Yeah, Prof. The Ministry of Higher Education already opened up grant for us. So me together with the IT friends, we already applied the grant to make use of IT in our domestic economy. So Malaysia used to be agriculture economy centuries ago. So we have to come back to our self-sufficient economy. So currently our food security, we only have for rice, just sufficient for 70% of our consumption. So the rest we have to import from Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, etc. The rice. So now, because imagine we consume 80 kilogram rice per person, 80 kilogram rice a year by 32 million population in Malaysia. So we need to grow other things. For example, we need to grow fruits, and also talking about the herbal. Actually, all these traditional herbs, traditional medicine, already in our economy, but not paid attention and not given any grant, etc.
Okay, Dr. Sabi, just let me interject here. I think, Prof. Farida, you are the right person here to comment. I know you and me, both of us, we belong to Kedah, and the Kedah is a paddy field. My village, your village, and
rice bowl
for Malaysia. The Kedah, my forefathers, they came from Pulai, and Pulai is known to be a paddy field. This is an opportunity for the people in Kedah to grab this opportunity to go back to. So please share. Prof. Farida is basically from northern part of the Malaysia, which is Kedah.
Me too, from Perak. I have Bendang Padi Sawah.
No, sorry. You don't qualify to be Kedahan. So, sorry, Shoaib, I have to reject your joining the club. Prof. Farida, perhaps you can share how the Kedah can emerge as one of the leading states in Malaysia.
All right. Before I proceed, I would like to beg to differ on what Mr. Franco mentioned just now regarding the Malaysian status, and I think Suhaimi would agree with me, since Prof. Khalid is far away from homeland. Actually, Malaysia is doing pretty well with the MCO thing right now. We, in fact, recorded almost zero death last few days, until some hiccups from the incoming students coming back and all that. I think probably Franco was reading too much on the medias, but the ones that are really very challenging are countries like Singapore, America, and EU. So I think
Prof, you got off. You did go straight to the point of the food safety and security.
No, and now I'm coming back. Now I'm coming back to your point.
Yes.
If you're talking about the food security, Kedah itself also suffered, Prof. Khalid, because a lot of development prior to COVID has really affected the food security of food production. But I would like to suggest three things over here on what the university should look into, that that they should focus after during this COVID time and after post-COVID. Number one is to teach the basic skills to work independently, because with social distancing, the population should look seriously what's the priority in the economy. So agriculture is a big must. Number two, they need to expand career services to offer, as I mentioned earlier, gig careers. Gig careers would mean probably for a periodic time, such as agriculture, marketing, logistics, food, healthcare, daycare, like you mentioned. And
Okay.
university can also set up a quick job board, you know, like the career and counseling board.
Maybe,
to
Prof,
highlight.
Prof, if I can interject here,
Sure.
is it a good opportunity for the, for example, the women sector is very known to be multi-skilling compared to male counterparts. So they would be easy to adapt perhaps to the new changes because of being multi-skilling rather than I can see you are nodding your head. Quickly, maybe otherwise I go to Franco. Anything, Prof. Farida?
Okay, just one short point. I disagree with that because those who will be badly affected with this COVID will be the male employees, sorry. So
Yes.
equally important would be the ladies, but ladies, they can stay home and do a lot of multitasking and, you know, like IoT, Internet of Things business, small businesses. So they can start from that. But we have to worry, you know, on the so-called breadwinners and where are they going to focus their jobs in? If they can't produce, at least do marketing, because I do agree that we have distribution problem right now in the country. So the stocks are there, but the distribution is not there.
Okay,
So I take
Prof.
5 on that.
Prof,
Yeah.
thank you, Prof. Mr. Franco, another chance for you, couple of minutes before we go to the organizers, maybe to have some questions answered from the participants somewhere. Yes, please, Franco.
So I think, well, thank you so much, Professor Khalid. And I think it's very important to also note among this panel that as with any situation or with any change, there are winners and losers. And I think it's been spelled out already that some of the industries that have heavily suffered in the wake of this crisis are things like, you know, tourism, hospitality, food and beverage, transportation, airlines, and so forth. They have suffered very greatly, and they will continue to struggle. But of course, as I said, as with any change, there will be winners, and we have seen that already materialize. And some of the winners will be looking at from a Vietnamese point of view, agriculture, food, but also the deurbanization, people moving back into the country, leaving the big towns, the big cities. Medical and health has already been mentioned. But then also in terms of, and that's been mentioned too, you know, the Industrial 4.0, the thrift or the push towards more technology and e-commerce and digitization, artificial intelligence, robotics and so forth. I believe from my point of view, and again, looking from Vietnam, I think the country has been pushed forward by at least 20 years in a matter of 2 months. It's incredible the kind of development that we have seen in Vietnam also in the last 2 months. Going back very quickly to what you were saying about food and food safety, of course, there are certain countries, including Malaysia, including Vietnam, where there is a lot of subsistent living, where people can live off the crops that they produce. I'm thinking in terms of fishing, I'm thinking in terms of farming, but also part of the economy, which we often neglect, and I just watched a documentary this morning, the whole informal economy, all these people that have been hired and contributed to the economy that are not even counted officially, they have also suffered greatly, including...
Okay, thank you, Franco, for a very good point bringing from Vietnam. Your neighbor, Cambodia, might gain better because they have a lot of agricultural land to be cultivated.
Yes.
And of course, Vietnam always bully the neighbor, Cambodia, I know for sure. So, but it's opportunity for that. I wouldn't know, Prof. Imran Salim, how many minutes more you have? Perhaps we can go for some Q&A in case there is something from you or you would like to share some of your concern for time. Can't hear you, can't hear you.
I strongly feel that the discussion is so lively that I hope and wish that it really goes on. But of course, we have limitations. We still have time. I think almost we have enough time. But see, Franco, you have very, very correctly pointed out that there are specific industries through which each of the countries might be benefited. But my point is that barring a few industries and the economies, largely the overall recessionary situation is almost inevitable across the world. And therefore, the trade relations and the cross-border relations, where I think most of the island countries heavily depend upon is a major concern, and how Malaysia is targeting to address that issue, the cross-border relationship, and I mean, is there any focus on this, or is there some focus on small-scale industry, small and medium enterprises, something of that kind? Madam, would you elaborate a little, if you have some point in this direction?
Sure.
Because see, I think the whole world is concerned about the potential recession and the post-COVID strategies of the nations, which actually we are also targeting to discuss.
Yeah, Prof. Farida, please.
Yeah, I think the way forward would be, I mean, in the universities, to teach what they practice and develop a business model based on the current case studies about how the employers are changing their work and their workforce, example, online or IR4 before, and we are going towards IR5, which is humanization. So food, agriculture is a must now. There's no two way about it. I mean, we are going back to basics, and these are the things that we need to unlearn, relearn, and all that, because we have left that industry just for the manufacturing sector. So for industrialization. So small business, and also they call it as tenured entrepreneurship, is created due to forces like this, because there's no choice. And they have to think about survival. So I totally agree that it's not only Malaysia, but Malaysia is easier to control because it's on the small scale as compared to India or America or China. But look at China, how they managed to go across territories and provinces. So I think high time that all countries should take their own accountability and responsibility of their nation, of their people, in order to provide the food supply. They can grow, small farms just at the backyard to begin with. Do not have to be dependent on the government, and we have to start small. And you see, to me, I feel that this IoT is just superb. They came in at the right time. People use the internet right now to learn about a lot of things, including how to grow, vegetables and many others, how to do fishing, how to do, just name it. You just ask, or you just go on the search engine. At least you can survive, for a short period, short term, and then think about the long term of economy when the things gets better and coming back.
Maybe, Prof. I thank you. I can look forward. Prof. Imran Salim has been insisting, because Southeast Asia, members of the Southeast Asian nations are mostly islands. Malaysia is one of them. East Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, which is island. Indonesia is full of islands, and of course the Philippines, etc. So, and look at the Singapore. I tell you, Singapore always say, well, we are the tigers, and now in a situation they have been trading nations, and due to the purchasing power of the strong Singapore dollar, they have been importing from Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia at a cheaper rate, and try to control their strong currency power. And now they are devastated. I don't know what will happen to Singapore. It's a very small island, but Singapore was one of the, very, very powerful economy prior to the COVID. What will happen to the post-COVID to Singapore, I don't know. Maybe Franco, would you like to comment something on that? Mr. Franco?
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And I think it's worth mentioning or re-emphasizing what Professor Dr. Farida said, that it's back to basics. So I think it's not only back to basics for governments and industries and businesses, but for families as well, individuals. And I think every person needs to ask him or herself, what am I good at? And what do I want to do? And this applies to, as I said, to businesses, to industries, to governments, countries. So a country like Switzerland is in a similar position as Singapore, where they have no natural resources other than people and perhaps access to water like Singapore. A country like Singapore needs to ask itself, what are we good at? What are the industries we wanna exploit in the next 20 to 30 years? Where are we going strategically? And of course, I cannot answer that on this in this forum, but I'm sure there's a lot of high-level discussions in Singapore as we speak, ascertaining where are we going to go in the next 20 to 30 years? Will it be finance and banking?
But isn't it the strength of Singapore that they have the educational institutions, one of the top in the world in rankings? So human resource may be the another important strength of the Singapore. That's what they have been using in the past.
Absolutely, so, I agree. And that's why I'm drawing the comparison between Switzerland and Singapore, because both are very small countries. All they really have is, apart from political strength, is the finance and banking sector, undergirded by, of course, the labor. They have very good institutions of higher learning. They have a very highly talented and highly educated workforce. So, of course, that in itself is a strength. But will it be sufficient? Will it be sufficient for a country like Singapore to just have that one industry to move forward to? Again, I'm comparing it with Switzerland, and these discussions are taking place right now. What will be the main industries?
But I tell you, Singapore in a hot soup, because most of those industries which Singapore has been relying upon, shipping, financial hub, tourism, and all these industries are really in a big mess now.
Yes.
So perhaps Singapore has to relook back their model of development, and Singapore may not remain what it used to be earlier. Maybe Swami, couple of minutes from you, you'd like to participate on this island economies and then the contribution and future. Just be to the point.
Yes, bro. We have many islands now working on their self-sufficient. Some islands in Asia are not just tourism; they have fishing and also other things. But in the past, our islands are not for tourism. But just because of the tourism campaign, now they become the target of tourism. But now, since the closed border, so our island can go back to their old function with all the herbs. Now we emphasize on the sharing economy and the community empowerment. People can make a lot of things in their islands. Indonesia perhaps hundreds of islands, and they have been surviving with their what we call the self-sufficient. I remember the Cocos Island and Christmas Island in the past Indonesian, now part of Australia. Before they became Australia, they used to work to survive by their own. No need tourism, but they can survive with whatever they have.
But they have been surviving only by catching the fish, nothing else what they can do.
So those are the self-sufficient. We have to empower. We have to empower back the community for the self-sufficient economy while the borders are still closed.
Prof. Farida, perhaps this may be the last round. Just I would like to see that Thailand has branded itself and positioned as a hub for the health tourism, because a lot of people, they go for health tourism to Thailand, which is close to your hometown border. How do you think impact of this? We have heard about Singapore, heard about the Vietnam, heard about Malaysia, but Thailand and Indonesia is not touched upon. Perhaps quickly, would you like to give one comment before I pass back to Prof. Imran Salim? Thailand is one of the good economy in the region. Please, Prof. Farida.
I detest that, because right now I think our neighboring country suffers a lot. Malaysia would be the next probably incoming medical tourism. We have already introduced that, but the latest I would say report, the tourists who were here prior to COVID period, they prefer to be here than going back to their country of origin, because they know the steps taken by the government, the governors, the regulators are doing the right thing to the people, and we are under control. So medical tourism comes in two forms. One would be the scientific form, like the medical healthcare and all that. But the other one, like what Swami mentioned just now, traditional herbs and all that, will also be considered as the future of for Malaysia. So
okay. I think
opportunities, right?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Farida. Prof. Khan, Prof. Nawab Khan, would you like to inject anything? Perhaps maybe we are close to ending. I will pass back it to Prof. Imran Salim. Yes, You have
After I
been
listened to you,
very silent
sorry.
observer. Yes, go ahead.
After I listen to you, one thing is impelling me. If you allow me, let me share with you.
Go ahead,
You know,
go ahead.
because we all know that the whole world is having a challenge from this COVID-19, and as you have observed that regarding the environment, I also have a feel, and when I see these changes here, I really feel this is amazing. Actually, you see that the outbreak has led to cleansing of air, water in a very unprecedented way, and I think it will be no longer runs. I mean, it is going to save a lot of lives actually. Then the death it has caused. In India, if you see that the death rate and the survival rate is too different, you see. But I don't know why people are so much apprehensive, why people are so much afraid of it. Because what I feel that due to worldwide lockdown, thousands of deaths that would have otherwise taken place in accidents or in murders that have been saved in fact. And moreover, you see the respiratory diseases will also be under check these days. It has been taught that man can stay home. Living at home is more important. People should go out only when this is important or urgent and necessity works. Otherwise, they should stay home. And this is not bad at all for unhealthy activities to go outside. So what I feel that of course whole world is afraid. There is panic everywhere. But I feel I have some kind of silver lining that I can see that the life these days seems quite congenial. Other things remaining the same. But if I ask this question from you, that why people are so panicked? You see in India, how many people have died, how many people have saved their lives, and even then, the problem is so acute that whenever there is some problem, this entire area is sealed, and I don't find anything good out of it. So just please let me know what is actually the real outcome that is going to take place.
Very good. Actually, you are not just silent observer, you are critical thinker. Okay, I think you are right.
I want to add
yeah.
one thing here. You see, this is the month of May. In the May, I was afraid that the May in Ramadan, inshallah, would be posing a lot of difficulties for us. But you see, in the month of Ramadan, in the month of May, we are observing our fast like we are observing in the month of November, December, in fact.
Actually, I tell you, I wanted to go for that dimension, but because of the interest and common thing for all of us, Mr. Franco is there, Professor, we are all Muslims here. Otherwise, I thought of opening the chapter for spirituality. And this is actually a very important area and opportunity for all of us to improve spiritually ourselves. Because other days we are so preoccupied with the humdrum of the daily life, and we have no time for family. We have no time for even for our Creator and God. So there's another opportunity to look at it, but maybe it will turn to be a religious class. I don't want to dwell into that area unless some of you got burning point to share. Prof. Imran Salim, back to you.
Imran doesn't let us go outside the track actually.
Responding to my friend's query that why it is being so alarming, it's just the infectious nature of the disease that is why it is being looked at that way. And lockdown is possibly not the solution. It is just a delaying tactic to the infection unless the vaccine is really innovated or some way out looked after.
Prof. Salim, I tell you, a lot of things I'm reading. I tell you, these 2-3 months have been so productive for me academically. Finished 2-3 papers, almost finishing a book, completing the student's thesis, being at home, because this is sometimes very productive. But the problem here is that, well, we are not, the whole world is not academic. And in terms of this, the vaccine, etc., there's a lot of conspiracy theory going on. If we open it, it will be actually the big wound of the tin will come out of it. A lot of conspiracy theories are being talked about. So
actually,
yes,
the problem is that, I mean, you rightly said that each one of us is not academician. I'll just share one instance in my locality, which is said to be the most literate village of the world, where all the doctors and other people reside. And here, 2 of the suicides have taken place. So
yeah,
that is another dimension that we need to really be concerned about, because you being productive is perfectly all right, but everybody doesn't have that mental strength and the things to do. So what I really, as the discussion goes on, I really, if I call out the best points, that perhaps we have to look back as the economies to our basics. We have to work out with the cottage and small scale industries, which I think was very emphatically insisted by Farida as well as Franco. And unless it is the individuals whose confidence is restored in the economic activities, I think nothing substantial would really happen across the world, because the governments may come up, the industries and corporates may be activated. Some loans in India recently we have exempted excused for about 68,000 crores of rupees have been pardoned for the industrialists, but those things are not going to really help out the masses. The igniters have to come from the root level, where they can start demanding, where actually the propensity to consume is at the top, where if we build in that confidence and some supply of money, then I think it will prove to be an igniter for the economy, for the cascading effect on the aggregate demand of the national economies. So this is how I feel, and I think
Prof. Salim, this is again, maybe we need to have another seminar, and there is one coming forward. The money supply in the system itself is a big issue now in the banking sector.
Very true.
Because they say this is the fiat money, the real value of the money remains only 2%, 98% is just paper and digital money on the records. There's nothing. And these people are playing the game, according to some people, the World Bank, IMF, and other international financing agencies, that they are creating the money from thin air. There's nothing in the reality. So that's a big debate going on the other side, that this fiat money and the people who are capitalist bloc, they are taking this opportunity to forfeit the people's real property, real assets, etc., to capitalize upon it. And you see what happening. The China is taking the lead, buying the big assets in the Western and European countries. So I think there's perhaps the need for having another discussion basically on this banking and maybe you can organize another time, another issue. There are some cases going on. I know I'm part of those groups. Sometimes I listen them, they're talking. So maybe yes.
Actually, these are some of the thematic seminars that we are having. And gradually we will move towards more focused, theme-oriented, specific theme-oriented, and we would love to seek your cooperation and guidance to have more of this kind of webinars in near future.
Thank you very much. I think thank you, Dr. Sohaimi, for your time. Thank you to Prof. Farida Hassan for your participation. Mr. Franco, really, we appreciate your presence today for this morning. Sharing.
My pleasure.
Okay, and of course, my thank goes to Chairman, Dr. Muhammad Nawab Ali Khan, a good friend, Professor Imran Salim. But I think both of you are still junior to me, so I have the opportunity to pull your legs.
For sure, by all means. That is the beauty of Aligarh fraternity. So before we close, I thank all the panelists on behalf of the Honorable Vice Chancellor of my university, who had been, very supportive to this effort of ours. And I'm particularly thankful to Franco that despite his busy schedule, he had been able to spare some time and share his ideas with us. And I would, on this very platform, I'm going to request Franco to have another appearance with us. This time, more focused.
I'd love to. My pleasure.
And I hope and wish that we will deliberate more on this once we are together. I'll keep in touch with all of you, and we'll work out certain very specific themes to deliberate further onto these issues, so that we can generate at least some ideas. I think I have a very strong perception and very positive attitude towards the fact that I strongly feel that even if we can give a good one suggestion to the humanity, which contributes, could be an outcome of all this effort. So I wish and I hope and I really solicit your cooperation into this. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Okay.
Thank you so much.